Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the MN Talk Show. Special guest today, Miles Deeth, boys Wayzata assistant varsity coach. Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the board, man. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today. This is awesome.
Welcome aboard. Yeah. Well, give us a little background, who you are, kind of what you do, kind of start from the beginning.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm from Plymouth, so I was thinking about it on the way over here. 21 of the last 25 years of my life, I've been on a Wayzata hockey team.
Really?
Wow.
So grew up playing first year, kindergarten, Mite 1, all the way up, played high school for Wayzata. My senior year was actually Pat O'Leary's first year as the head coach.
Okay.
So that's a little full circle right there.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And then 4 years of college after, was the only time I wasn't involved in Wayzata hockey. So
Where'd you play college at?
I played golf in college, actually.
Okay.
So I played at the University of South Dakota.
Sick.
There's golf courses out there.
Brookings or...
There's golf courses with about 50-mile-an-hour winds and
It's got to be the hardest place.
3 irons that go about 125 yards. So
Jesus.
grew up in Plymouth, played hockey and golf, well, baseball too, quit baseball for golf, and then kind of made the decision to play golf in college and had an opportunity to play there. And basically that boiled down to not wanting to do 2 or 3 years of junior hockey. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Why not?
just because my goal was always to play Division I sport, and I started to have some success in high school playing golf and started to get recruited. So just went for the sure thing, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any regrets about that. Sometimes I kind of wish in the job I do now, I wish I had that experience as a player, but like I said, no regrets. Had a great experience in college.
You were trying to go pro at one point in golf, weren't you?
Well, probably right when I got to college, that was my plan. But as I started playing, I realized there's just so many talented players out there, especially not being at a huge school golf wise, and then just not having the level of success I felt like I needed to. Just decided to come home and start coaching hockey. So.
With Pat O'Leary right away, or?
No, so I did the Squirt A my first year out of college with 3 buddies, which is a funny story just because one of my buddies actually signed up first, so he was the default head coach. I mean, we had 4 22-year-olds that had absolutely no idea what they're doing. So I
That's
think
some of the best seasons, though, isn't it?
thinking back, I was the worst hockey coach you could imagine.
Yeah.
What were your drills like?
Just first of all, disorganized.
Yeah. All over the place.
All over the place. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then I coached Squirts again, and then moved to Pee Wee AA the next year. And then at that point, it was the spring of 2019. In April, I decided to quit my day job and do hockey full time with the instruction and on ice training and everything. So
What was your day job at the time?
So I worked at a medical device company right out of college as a kind of sales support role. Almost got into sales for that, and then we got acquired by a bigger company. And then because of that acquisition, I moved to a gift card technology company as a account manager. So we ran the back end of gift cards basically, and did that for 2 years, and then decided going to the rink was a little bit more enjoyable for me.
That's kind of cool. I've never heard somebody, I guess, run gift cards or work it that way, I guess,
Yeah, so it was there was these over-the-counter medicine cards that Medicare and Medicaid recipients would get to allow them to buy stuff from Walgreens that was over the counter. So we ran the back end, the loading of the money and
Okay.
that stuff. So
Yeah, that's kind of cool. A little different.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yep.
So you were started at Squirts.
Yep.
2 years there, did you say, or 1 year?
2 years.
2 years at Squirts, 2 years at Pee Wee's.
So 1 year Pee Wee's as the head coach, Pee Wee AA at Wayzata, and then at that point got onto the high school staff, but I kept coaching for 2 years. So I did both teams for 2 years.
Was that stressful trying to do both of them or finding a way to do both of them?
It was stressful because I felt bad for missing the Pee Wee stuff all the time.
Right.
Anytime we had a high school game, I was out for that night or day basically, just 'cause, like you have an afternoon game at 2:30,
Yeah.
your day is done.
Gone.
So
And if it's an away game, it's even harder.
yeah. But I had good assistants. I had Mario Lucia on that Pee Wee staff, and then a couple dads that really helped out. But yeah, that was the stressful part for me, just missing and not feeling like I gave the kids what they deserve. So
Yeah.
How
those,
old were you?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, how old were you when you got on the high school staff?
So it was 2019. So I don't know. I'm a 93. What does that make that? 25, 26?
Yeah, 26.
It's a young coach.
Young coach. Oh,
It's
yeah.
a young coach.
Were you
Yeah.
nervous going into the high school team as a young coach? You know, being 26, like that's not really an average age of a high school coach.
Super nervous. And like, I credit Pat for giving me the opportunity because, like, in a lot of ways, I didn't deserve it.
Right.
Because I had paid my dues at Squirts and Pee Wees, but like high schools, you usually see like a JV kind of progression there or somebody older. But what really helped me was doing STP all summer before that first year.
Right.
So like I was running practices with the high school guys, getting to know them, but running drills is one thing, and then actually trying to coach your D against Edina at Braemar is a different thing. So that
Totally different.
those
ballpark.
first couple years, the age difference was not an issue, but like sometimes it was tough.
Yeah.
Sat in the back of your head
Yeah.
a little bit. And
Yep.
I get it. I
That's
get it.
crazy.
Yeah, totally different. So with you being at that high school level, obviously you saw a difference between like coaching the Pee Wees and Squirts and stuff and then coaching the high school. What was the biggest challenge from making that jump?
The biggest challenge was the biggest difference, I would say, is like your opportunities in high school aren't guaranteed. And so managing that piece of it is difficult in high school because you have to explain why they're not getting opportunities all the time. Whereas in youth hockey, you're just basically opening the bench and rolling lines, which is what you should do. But the conversations during the week on, why am I not on the power play? Why am I not playing in the third period? Why am I not getting as many minutes as this guy? That piece of it's the most difficult thing to manage in high school, especially as like a new coach.
Yeah, for sure. Was it mentally challenging on you as a coach, like trying to explain these to the kids and they might not understand it, or they might have a different say on where they think they should be in the lines?
Yeah, because I had no experience in those conversations, and it's tough. It's tough to tell a kid that,
Right.
like, you're not good enough right now.
Yeah.
And you want to be honest, but at the same time, you want to have them believe that there's hope.
Right. You don't want to kill their confidence.
Right. So yeah, that was a little bit stressful, but every single year I feel like I get better at it. And I'm not in charge of it. I think a lot of that falls on the head coach, but yeah, getting better at it every year.
Good. So you guys are arguably a top 10 program every year. How do you guys stay top 10? What's the secret sauce that you guys are doing over at Wayzata? Like, does it start with the youth? I know you kind of took over a bigger role with the youth level, correct?
Yeah, so that's this is a year and a half into a director of hockey operations for the youth association.
Okay.
But to your question, I think, well, first of all, we have a ton of kids.
Yeah.
Like,
You got a lot
That
to pick
helps.
from.
It helps.
yeah, I mean, there's 4,000 kids at the high school. There's our youth program. There's 10, 11 squirt teams. We're starting with a huge base to the pyramid. But the consistency comes from players that built a culture like 10, 15 years ago, in my opinion, of stuff that's accepted and not accepted when they get there. So a lot of times we get sophomores into the program that their only experience is youth hockey, obviously, and they come in with a lot of bad habits, and they come in with a less of a consistency of effort and compete. And when they come in, they start to understand, because of our leadership, our senior leadership, because they went through it too, that stuff is just not, like, you can't do that and actually make it.
Right.
And so because it's so hard to actually earn a spot on our team, we have a good culture in the JV. We have, like, I think that's the biggest piece of it, year in and year out.
Gotcha. Very cool. I like it. I mean, so a kid walks into your office, your coach's room, I guess, says, "I want to play more ice time." He's probably not there yet. What goes through your mind at that point? Like, do you give him the honest truth, or do you kind of hold it back?
I think it depends. I think the biggest thing is how far, like how realistic is it? If it's a sophomore that, they're going to be JV all year and they have an expectation that's like way off, I think you have to be completely honest in that situation. There's other situations where you have somebody that's really close. And what I try to do with those players, I work with a defenseman. I try to highlight what they do well and make sure that they are trying to do what they do well, because they're not going to earn playing time trying to be something else, because that's just going to make them play worse. So I try to find like two things that they do really, really well and say, like, just hammer them, show them clips. You need to just continue to do this well, because that's
they start focusing on the things they do
Yeah.
bad. They're going to start thinking about it more, and then they're just going to keep screwing up what they do bad even worse, right?
Yeah, and like giving them a role is huge too, and that speaks to it too. I think sometimes kids get they'll think that the top end defensemen are so skilled, so I need to be a skill guy in order to get there, when they might be really good at playing defense below the dots in their own zone.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. So do you think hockey needs to be played year round? I know you AAA is huge in Minnesota right now. You go from the youth, you get like a month off hockey. Do you believe in that?
huge question.
Very deep.
Because you played hockey, you played baseball, you played lacrosse. I feel like it's almost hard to be a multi-sport athlete when you're a hockey player. Because I feel like if you don't play hockey in the summer, do you fall behind?
I think you need to play some hockey all year round. I think there's a diminishing return on too much, where if you don't have the energy and attention, which happens very rarely in kids, there's kids out there that can skate 5 days a week all year and get something out of it, but that's 5% of kids. So people see that 5% and they think that they have to keep up. But for the majority of kids, the amount of effort that you put in and attention to detail, you're not getting anything out of it. That being said, I think you should skate twice a week in the summer at your local STP.
Yeah.
And then you can ramp up in the fall and be ready to go. But if you're doing 6-7 days a week in the summer and not putting anything into it, you're not getting anything out of it. And you risk burnout.
Would you recommend that kids that are younger play more sports or like multiple sports and just throw their skates on, like you said, twice a week or whatever?
For sure. I think, I started a podcast a little bit ago, and we were talking about developing hockey sense. And I think something that people don't realize is that other sports can give you athletic sense. So you think about like playing football as a linebacker, like angling somebody out of bounds, that can translate to hockey, or like baseball, being ready for every single play and like thinking about, if I get the ball, what do I do next with it? That stuff can translate to hockey too. So like there's so many athletically, but I think also in your mind, playing other sports can actually help you in that area too.
Agreed.
You guys won the state, or Wayzata won the state championship back in 2016. You haven't won it since. Do you think there's kind of I don't know the best word to say, but like the urge to get back to that game in the locker room every single year since you've been there?
There's definitely a pressure that the community puts on ourselves, I would say. What we're focused on every year is just making the section final, to be honest.
Yeah.
If we can make the section final every year against either Edina, Benilde, Holy Angels is coming up. It used to be Blake, used to be Cretin in our section. If we can get to that game every single year, sometimes we're going to win it, and then sometimes we're going to go on a run. So that's kind of what we're focused on.
It was a crazy when you guys won it in 2016. You guys were ranked like 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was a senior in college when that happened. So I'm familiar with how the team, and I've heard stories from Pat and Coach Rooney. I think it was a great example of kids buying into their roles that year. But looking back, I think there's 5 or 6 Division I kids that ended up Division I. Now at the time, they weren't committed, and they maybe didn't have that like shine of like super high end players.
Yeah.
And because of that, they were still high end players, but then you had them doing stuff that like all stars don't do. And then you had like the role players that like would block every single shot, just chip a puck out. And you had those like kids that were really talented, but also knew that like that game against Eden Prairie was their last game ever.
Right. Like they had to give it their all.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it's for a player at the high school level, it's better for them if they get offers to play D1 or go to the USHL or something like that, for them to kind of put that aside and focus on what's at like the task at hand right now? Or do you think that it kind of promotes them to play a little bit better if they can commit somewhere early?
I think the biggest thing on that people don't realize is like focus on the now and like helping your team win, because that's what coaches want to see you do. Like it's a lot of times people don't realize that they might be looking for a third line right wing for their USHL team. And so like if you can show that in a high school game, some of those like skills that like just chipping a puck out or being on the ice in the last minute of a game, like you're going to show that you're going to be able to do that at the next level. So try to win, try to help your team win so that you can be on the ice more, so that you can be in all situations and show like every single coach out there, because they're, some coaches might want a power play guy, some coaches might want a penalty kill guy. Try to be in every single situation that you help your team win.
Right. I think my biggest my thing with that is like just be a Swiss Army knife. Like if you can play every position at a decent level, or just do the thing or the easy things simple, and like you said, chip pucks out or get them in deep, like you'll have the best opportunity for everything.
Yeah, because you never know what coaches are looking for out there.
Yeah.
They might want a left shot D that like can play the flank on a power play.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, right?
Right.
What does a pregame skate look like for you guys without spilling the secret sauce too much?
Like the day before practice?
Yeah. What do you guys typically do?
So we try to like do a small game at the start, try to get them moving and not thinking too much, and then we'll do like kind of like one scripted drill, one shooter drill that the goalies love. I know, Nate. Coming in 1-on-0.
Love that.
Goalies love one on those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So-
and then we'll try
Go ahead.
to hit like one system. One, like yesterday we worked on PK in zone and then keep it light, like 30, 40 minutes max.
Do you get them fired up, or they kind of do it themselves, or how do they get fired up for a practice before the game?
So my personality in coaching is different than other people's, but like I'm a laid back guy. So
Right.
like I'm not like a rah like try to get kids fired up.
Right.
Like my feeling is that like if you're not ready to go to play at Aldrich tonight in like the best thing ever,
Yeah.
then like we're so far away.
Yeah.
Like they'll be ready to go. Like
Yeah.
they understand the importance and how fun it is.
It's a great point.
So with you taking on a bigger role as director of hockey operations at Wayzata, you kind of, I don't want to say run the youth, but you kind of run the youth essentially. Do you know what you kind of want it to look like for those kids to go from squirts to peewees to bantams and get them ready for you guys at high school? What's kind of your output on that? What are you kind of having the coaches do at the younger levels? I mean, I know you guys do Monday night skills.
Yep.
I know the goalies do stuff on Mondays and Tuesdays with attitude goaltending.
Yeah.
Samardzija.
Mondays with
Yeah,
attitude.
so how do-
Samardzija.
How do you? What's that role kind of look like for you?
So great question, because when I got hired a couple summers ago, I didn't really know how to answer that question. It was super open-ended. People would ask me like, what does that entail? And I'm like, I have no idea. As I've been in it for a year and a half, I think I kind of bucket it as like have like maybe 40% of like making sure things run smoothly. So whether that be tryouts, communication to coaches on like what they need to have done, scheduling issues, stuff like that. I think the biggest piece that I've tried to really grow into maybe another 40 or 50% is coaches' education. And what I want to do, my biggest goal is we need to change how we practice. And my biggest thing right now is we need to do a lot more small area games. And it's like a buzzword in the hockey world right now, but like the constraint-led approach in designing different games. Basically, what it boils down to is we're trying to get the players to do what we want them to do without telling them what to do.
Letting them kind of figure it out on their own,
Right?
But like leading them in the right direction to figure that out.
Yeah, and that's how the highest level coaches are coaching, and there's a bunch of research behind it on why it works better. The kids have more fun. So what I do is I send out a Sunday night video to the coaches on a specific skill that we're going to work on Monday nights. I show them video clips, so stuff like that. And then I did a coaches meeting this year where I showed like 10 or 12 different small area games with a speaker and a microphone explaining how they do that, or how, if we want to work on D zone, we're going to do this specific game, and here's why, and here's the coaching and the teaching points. So just trying to shift like old school coaching of like full ice one-on-ones. You go here, you make this pass, you do it exactly this way, into more of a chaotic environment with more compete and more small games. And then the last like 10% of my job, I would say, is like putting out fires.
Yeah.
Like, which is horrible. But
One of my biggest pet peeves is when I show up to a rink and I see like a Squirt B2 team on the ice. Solo, like they have a solo sheet, they're all by themselves, and they're working on power play and PK. It's like,
yeah,
you can't even pass the puck. Why are we trying to run a power play PK? I was watching one of your podcast clips, and I think it was you that might have said it, or somebody else. They said a breakout is essentially just keep away.
right.
I mean,
That's all it is.
keep the puck away from the other team, and you're going the opposite direction.
Yeah, so we're chipping away at that. I think it's definitely a new way of thinking, and the majority of our coaches played hockey in the 80s and 90s, and they were coached. I think a lot of coaches coach the way that they were coached, and so I'm just trying to shift that thinking a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different game now than it was back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, the Squirts are doing Michigans left and right. Like, it's nobody's problem, right? But you said you have your new podcast. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, where it kind of came from, what the idea behind it is, and what the mission is for it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the Individual Skills Hockey Podcast. It's Individual Skills Clinics is a company that's owned by Pat O'Leary.
Shout out, Pat.
It started in the late 90s, I believe, with his father-in-law, Rick Beckfeld. And they now have Blake Sloan as an instructor as well. And he's our PWAA coach at Wayzata. He played for Michigan and Dallas Stars and won the Cup with the Stars in 2000, I think.
No big deal.
So that's the kind of company behind it. But I started it basically as a way for me to communicate my message to the Wayzata coaches.
Yep.
As I'm getting more and more people in to talk about different topics, I think we released one today about mental fitness in the game. So I think it's really cool to bring in experts to talk about different things as it relates to hockey and how, because I feel like there's not that out there right now for this community. I think there's some big ones like Hockey Think Tank, Rink Shrinks, stuff like that.
Yeah. But nothing on the local level where like the parents can see like people that they actually know talking about it and understanding it.
Yeah, and this area is a lot different than the rest of the country and the way we operate hockey. So I felt like there was a need for somebody to talk about this kind of stuff. So I'm having a blast. It's awesome.
It's been awesome. I love watching them, and the clips you get out of them are amazing. And I think you're gonna kill it. It's gonna be a big podcast here in Langston.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A few more questions for you. What's your goal in like the coaching world? Is it to coach in the NHL, win a Stanley Cup, or is it win a state
You
championship?
sound like my girlfriend. She asks me these questions all the time, and I take it day by day. I mean, that's a cliche, but like I take it year by year. I am in the best spot I can imagine for, like, when I started this 5 or 6 years ago. There's no way I thought that it'd be going this well so far. And I just, like I said, like 21 out of the last 25 years being on a YZ hockey team. I don't feel that pull to grind it out and like be a coach, because a lot of that, like, I don't have an ego. Like, I don't want to dominate the coaching world. So I'm in a really good spot. I think someday being a head high school coach is definitely in my plans. You know, and if another opportunity, whether that be, you know, Division III college or junior hockey, I definitely would consider it. I don't have some master plan though.
Just kind of roll with the flow, and wherever you end up, you end up.
I like it.
Love it.
Perfect. Last one for you. Best advice you'd give to anybody that helped you throughout your life.
Doesn't have to just be with hockey either.
Yeah.
It could be personal life or.
I think really good advice for people thinking about getting into coaching. And maybe this wasn't really your question, but I was thinking about it on the way over. First of all, do it. Coach hockey, because it's the best. Not all of my friends, but I have such a strong knit community of people I can count on in my life that I wouldn't have without coaching hockey. So you're thinking of like people I actually coach with, ex-players, their parents. There's people I can call like if my car was in a ditch that I might not call like my buddies from college. As like, so that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it, like if you decide to get into coaching, the biggest thing is like be yourself. Don't try to be anyone different. Like I mentioned before, people try to coach the way that they were coached, and that's what I did starting out. I had a really tough Bantam coach on us. He was a little bit insane. I could never do that because that's not the way I'm wired or personality-wise, and if you try to do that, you will not enjoy the process. So, be yourself.
Great tip.
We're having a
Great
Muzzy
tip.
girl off right now.
You are, yeah. Your stash is
I'm
looking
ju-
good.
I-
How
I
long have you
st-
had that on there for?
I've had it for over a year.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, mine's
I dig
a month and a half strong.
Nate's taking.
I
notes,
used to have a big beard. I used to have a big beard, and I felt like this was a little bit more professional looking.
a little classy.
But there's no way I'm gonna go clean shaven like ever.
yeah.
So
I like it. So that's all I stared at the entire time he was talking. I just stared at the Muzzy.
Oh
I will
God.
never forget. We were in St. Louis for a Tier 1 tournament.
Yeah.
It was me, you, Dave, Isaac, and I think Ross was there too.
Yeah.
Ben Monahan too.
Yeah.
Shout out Ben. And he brought his kid. We went golfing, and you guys teed off before us. Miles just nukes one like 350 down the middle.
Jesus.
And I'm like, all right, no wonder he was trying to go pro in golf. I like.
And then Nate steps up to the tee box and smacks one right into the water, right side of the fairway. Or
I do want to say I think it went right in the water. My first tee shot there.
It's either right down the pipe or way left or way right.
Yeah, no in
it's
between.
it's funny when I play with people for the first time, and like I'm not even like what people don't realize is like I'm not like that good at golf. Like I'm a
Yeah.
+2 handicap, but
Yeah.
like I have a buddy that played with me at South Dakota that is like 4 strokes better than me.
Jeez.
So there's that side of it where like people think like, oh my God, like you should like go on tour. I'm like, well, no, like not even close, not even possible.
Right.
And then there's the other side where like I'll hit a shot and people will be surprised, and like Pat will be playing with us or something, and he'll turn to them and be like, what did you expect? He played Division I golf.
Yeah. That's hilarious. You'll have to meet our buddy Brady. He's a +2 handicap also. He played at Winona for a year. So
Brady.
Holland. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Nice.
he's sick. You have to meet him.
I'd love to see
We'll
you
have to
guys
go out for a round.
against it.
Scramble, me and Nate versus Brady and Miles.
I think we'd lose. I don't like our odds.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, anyways, thank you for taking the time to come out here and talk with us. And yeah, I mean, if we're looking forward to it, we could definitely do a part 2 and get a little bit more in depth with everything else. So we appreciate you coming out, and yeah, thanks for being on the MN Talk Show.
Yeah.
Miles.
Thanks a lot.